Look at any fairy tale, any Hollywood rom-com, or a highly curated wedding mood board. We are sold a very specific narrative that lifelong monogamy is the ultimate, destined expression of human souls. Finding each other in a chaotic universe. We are taught that it is entirely natural and purely about love. But if we peel back the velvet curtains of history, the truth is far less romantic, and infinitely more transactional. To understand why we marry, and why we insist on exclusivity, we have to look at how we survived before bank accounts, property deeds, and inheritance taxes existed. Let's travel back to the earliest stages of human society. Primitive communities operated on a system of absolute, necessary sharing. The concept of mine and yours simply did not exist. Because hoarding meant death. Food was hunted and gathered for the tribe. The rudimentary tools belonged to the tribe. And yes, human relationships and reproduction were also communal. In these early societies, lineage was traced exclusively through the mother. Why? Because while the mother of a child is an undeniable, highly visible biological fact, the father, well, before modern science, fatherhood was essentially just a guess. And in a society where everything is shared, nobody cared about paternity. Children were the collective wealth of the entire tribe. There was no economic reason for jealousy or exclusive pairing. So, what ruined the ultimate communal party? A technological revolution. Humanity learned how to tame animals and cultivate the land. We invented the plow. Suddenly, for the first time in human history, we were producing a surplus. We had extra grain, vast herds of cattle, and permanent settlements. And with this surplus, the most powerful and disruptive word in human history was born: mine. Private property entered the chat. As men primarily took over the heavy agricultural work and the herding of large livestock, they became the owners of this newly generated wealth. But wealth brings a brand new existential dread. When you spend your entire life building an empire of sheep, copper tools, and fertile land, what happens when you die? You want to pass it on. You need an heir. But not just any heir. You demand that your biological bloodline inherits the fruits of your labor. Here is the historical crux of the matter: to pass down private property safely, you must absolutely guarantee paternity. And there is only one way to guarantee paternity in a pre-DNA world. You must strictly isolate, guard, and control the reproductive capacity of the woman. You have to lock the system down. Monogamy was not invented because mankind suddenly became morally enlightened, or universally romantic. It was engineered as a strict economic mechanism. It was the first, and most enduring, property contract. But let's be historically accurate here. When we say monogamy emerged, what we actually mean is female monogamy. For centuries, the rules were glaringly one-sided. A woman's infidelity threatened the entire economic foundation of inheritance. It risked passing accumulated wealth to a stranger's bloodline. Therefore, it was punished with ultimate severity, sometimes death. Meanwhile, male infidelity did not threaten the bloodline of his primary, legal heirs. So history and the laws written by those property-owning men often turned a blind eye, actively tolerating mistresses, concubines, and double standards. It was a one-way street paved entirely with economic anxiety. Of course, you can't just tell a population, hey, follow these strict, oppressive rules, so my property transfer goes smoothly. That doesn't inspire loyalty. So, society did something brilliant. It wrapped this cold economic necessity in the beautiful, untouchable packaging of religion and morality. What started as a ruthless rule for inheritance was gradually transformed into a divine law, and the ultimate measure of personal virtue. The economic foundation was buried deep underground, and the moral superstructure became all that we could see. We forgot the ledger and worshipped the halo, the architecture of our most romantic institution. was actually built on the foundations of livestock, land ownership, and the desperate need to keep the wealth in the family. Love, of course, has always existed in human hearts. But the institution of strict monogamy, that is purely the child of economics.